one is on writing and evaluating algebraic expressions. So we're starting to get into like equations that are going to have x involved in them and so on. So this is just expressions right now. So expressions don't have an equal sign. Equations do have an equal sign. Okay, so there are 3 different definitions that you guys kind of need to know what they are. You don't need to memorize the definition or anything, but variables are letters that represent like unknown values. Constants are just plain numbers. They don't have a variable attached to them. And coefficients are the number out front when they're attached to a variable. So if I'm talking about the number of terms, the number of terms is the number of items that are separated by pluses or minuses. So if you look at this first one, see how I have like a 5x that all goes together, a 2y, a 6z, and an 11? So there's 4 terms. Does that make sense? So we have 4 terms. And my variables are x, y, and z. My constants, so the numbers that don't have any variables with it, 11. And then my coefficients are the numbers in front of variables. So I have 5, -2, so make sure you use the sign as well. So 5, -2, and 6. Okay, so if I use any of these words in algebra, you guys should know what it means. So coefficient, constants, variables. So the number of terms on the next one, we have 3 things separated by pluses or minuses. My variable, in this case, I only have x. So we don't say x squared, we just say x. My constant is 10, and my coefficients are 3 and -7. Does it make sense? All right, so my number of terms on the next one, how many?
2.
2, yep. What are my different variables that I'm using? X and y. My constants?
None.
None, right. And my coefficients?
7 and 6.
Close.
-6.
Yep, 7 and -6, perfect. So the last one, I have 3 terms. My variables are just x. My constants are 1. And my coefficients are -3 and -9. Okay, so they're not always x, y, and z. You could have a, b, and so on. I tend to not use b's because some people are terrible at writing b's and they look like 6s. And same with a's, sometimes that gets into a 9.
Confused.
B and D. Oh, are you dyslexic? Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of people, if you are dyslexic, you have B, D, P, and Q. Like, those are miserable for you. So I try to use X, Y, and Z if possible. All right. So you will often have to evaluate expressions by plugging in specific numbers for the variables. So we kind of had this on that homework, and then I was like, oh, yeah, I haven't taught you guys that yet. So we crossed it out, remember? So some of you guys know how to do this. I know. Some of you guys do not know how to do this. So in this one, I have 4 plus 2y, and I'm telling you that y is equal to 3. So when I plug y in, I'm going to go ahead and put it in a parenthesis.
So would you do 2 times 3 then?
Yep. And then I have minus, and I'm going to replace the x with -2, and see how I put that in parentheses as well. You don't always have to do parentheses, but it will be good if you have exponents. Okay, so Peter's right. He says, so you're going to do 2 times 3, and you get 6. How about the -2? Minus. You get 2. Yeah, we need AJ here to sing the song, right? I can't remember what the song was, but it was catchy. All right, so we get 12. All right, so the next one I have half of x. So I have half of -2. And then I have minus. Now this is where it's important that you have parentheses, because if this was a negative number and I square it, I would have to square the negative as well. So I'm putting the 3 in parentheses and squaring it, so I know that my y is replaced with the entire 3. So do you see what I'm saying? If that had been a negative, then you would put it in like that, and that's important. Okay. So here we get 1/2 of -2, so that's going to be -1. And then I have minus 3 squared is 9. So really notice how we're following the order of operations. Really what I would do first is exponents, and then I would do my multiplication. I went ahead and did them on the same step though. That's fine as long as you're not, as long as I didn't have like a number out here. That was when multiplication, you have to wait till you do the exponent. All right, so I have -1 minus 9, so what do I get? -10, good. All right, so the next one, so -4xy. So I have -4, x is -2, y is 5. All of that is being grouped together. It's all multiplied together. So if you get confused, you could always do a big bracket around that if you want. And then you have -3 times y, which is 3. Okay, so we're saying that this first part's 40. Will, you with me? 40. Uh-huh.
How'd you get 5 for the y?
Oh, I plugged in the wrong thing. Oh, Sarkis got a bonus point. Yay. All right, x and then y is 3, isn't it? I put the wrong thing. All right, and then I have 3 times 3. All right, so we don't have 40 at the beginning. What do we have?
Wait, no, there's y.
So I have 8 times 3, so 24.
31.
And then minus 9. So be careful, it's minus 9.
Wait, how do you get 24?
Because I'm going to do 4 times negative 2 is 8, positive 8, and then 8 times 3 is 24.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
All right, and then 24 minus 9 is 15. All right, so how are we feeling about that so far? So you guys want to try a couple on your own? All right, so go ahead and try A and B. All right, so A and B are a little bit harder than the last ones. Okay, so if I have negative 4x, I have negative 4 times 3/4. Then I have plus 2 times y minus x. So I'm going to have negative 4 minus x, which is 3/4. Okay, a lot harder. We have fractions.
Isn't that equal 3 1/4? Negative 3 1/4?
Negative, well, it's negative 4 3/4, actually, because they're both negative, so it's going to be a bigger negative. Yeah, confusing, huh? All right, so you have to get past your fraction phobia. Some of you guys definitely have fraction phobia. Even in my Algebra 2 class, they still do not like fractions. I don't know, fractions are your friends, right? It's okay, fractions make things easier. So I have negative 4 times 3/4. So what we're thinking of is negative 4 over 1 times 3 over 4. Then we have plus 2. And when I combine these, I'm going to change my negative 4 so I have common denominators. So if I have negative 4 minus 3 over 4, I'm going to multiply that negative 4 by 4 over 4 so I get common denominators. So I'm going to have negative 16 over 4 minus 3 over 4. So how does that combine? Yeah.
It's 13 over,
Close.
19 over 4?
Negative 19 over 4. So I have 2 times negative 19 over 4. And then I have plus, how about the first part? What does that work out to be? Yeah, it's negative 3, exactly. So I have negative 3 plus 2 times negative 19 over 4. So when I have 2 over 1 times negative 19 over 4, you can reduce the 4 and the 2 to 1 and 2. So we get negative 3 minus 19 over 2. And one last step, we want to get common denominators. So what's negative 3 going to change to? I want to have a common denominator of 2, so I'm going to multiply by 2 over 2. So I get negative 6 over 2 minus 19 over 2. So did any of you guys get negative 25 over 2? No. Okay. That's about as hard as I get. So I actually didn't mean to put the 3/4. I meant to put y minus z, but I made a typo. So I did make that one harder than it should be. But yeah, that's a tricky one. All right, so y squared. So this next one. So if I have y squared, I have negative 4 squared plus 3 times negative 7. Notice how I put that negative 4 in parentheses. Okay, that is important. The entire y value is going to be squared. So if my entire negative 4 is multiplied by itself, I get 16. If you do not put it in parentheses,
But would you keep it as 16 squared or just 16?
It's 16 because you already squared it, right? So if you write negative 4 squared, that is actually negative 16. Okay, so that's going to be something that's going to mess you up along the line as you're taking Algebra 2, Pre-Calc, and so on. Like you're going to be making silly mistakes because you didn't learn it in Algebra 1. So we're going to learn it right now. So when we plug it in, we want to put negative 4 and square, okay? Because that would be positive 16. So I have 16, and then I have minus 21. So what do I get here? Negative 5, exactly. All right, so this next one looks a little bit different.
What do the lines outside of it mean?
The lines outside of it, I was just trying to separate my problems. Here, we'll draw another line here.
No, I'm saying the lines.
Oh, on part C? I don't know, what do those lines mean? Yeah?
Does it make it positive?
It does. It's the absolute value, right? So absolute value. So we're going to make it positive in the end.
So would the z equal positive 7 then?
It would not. You're going to just add everything together. It's as if it's in parentheses here. You're going to do everything in parentheses first. And then at the very end, you're going to take the absolute value. So if it was negative, make it positive. But if it's positive, what do you do? Keep it as positive, right? So I have 4 minus 8 times 3/4 plus a negative 7. And it's in absolute values. So how about the 8 times 3/4? Are you guys getting good at that? Yeah?
Fine, put times it by 4 over.
You could, but we actually do not need common denominators in this case because we're not adding or subtracting, we're multiplying. Okay?
Oh, you
It's
just
what?
put it over 1 and multiply.
It is, it's -6, good. So sometimes you can do fractions in your head, and if you think about fractions in like, you know, like if I say, what is 3/4 of 8? Well, let's divide 8 into 4 pieces. So if I have 8 slices of pizza and I divide them among 4 people, I have 2 slices of pizza, right? So what's 3 of those fourths? So I would have 3 of the 2s, so I'd get 6. So it's going to be 6. Now, if you want to, you can do it this way. You could multiply across the top and get 24 over 4 and then reduce. Or you can multiply like that, or reduce first and then multiply, right? So if you need to do your fraction work off to the side, that's totally fine. Colin, you taking notes? All right, so we get 4 minus 6 minus 7 in absolute values, which is going to be 4 minus 6 is -2. Minus 7 is -9. So what is my final answer?
Positive 9.
Positive 9, exactly. Okay. How about the next one? So we see z plus 9. So z is -7, so -7 plus 9. And then we have 4 plus y. So I have -7 plus 9. Yeah?
Doesn't the bottom cancel out into 0?
It does. So what happens if I have a 0 on the denominator?
It's just 2.
It is not 2. Yeah, what do you think, Xavier?
Actually, I have a question about B.
Okay. What about b?
-15 for B.
-15. Yeah, so check through your work. So I think that's right. I think 9 should work. So see where your error was. Did you have 4 minus 6 minus 7 in absolute values?
No, for B.
Oh, for b, sorry. Okay, so you got -15. 16. I think it's -5. So 16 plus 5 gives you 21, right? All right, so what if I have 2 divided by 0? Yeah, Sarkis?
I was looking at, how does that make it 9?
How is it 9 when you take the absolute value?
Yeah, it's
It's
like 4 minus 6 minus 7.
It makes -9, right?
Yeah.
So 4 minus 13. Or you could do 4 minus 6 is -2, and then minus 7 is -9. Yeah. Okay.
Is the answer 0?
The answer is not 0. All right, 2 divided by 0. Have you guys learned this before?
It's
Undefined.
It is undefined. Thank you, Max. All right, and you can try it on your calculator, and calculator will yell at you. It will say error. Right, so 2 divided by 0 is undefined. All right, and I think we've talked about this before. So here's the example that I want you guys to think of. Like if I had 1 pizza and I divide it by 1/4. So all of my slices of pizza are now divided into 1/4 slices. My whole pizza is divided into 1/4. Then I have 1 times 4 over 1, remember? So I get 4. So what if I had 1 divided by 1/10? What would that be? 10. 1 divided by 1 over 100. 100, right? And you can work through this, but basically this number on the bottom is getting closer and closer to 0. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But what's happening to your final outcome? It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So undefined, what's it kind of equivalent to in this case? Like what number? What's the biggest number you can think of? Infinity. It's going to infinity. So when you divide by 0, it's basically going to infinity. There are other instances of undefined where it's not infinity, but in this case it would be going to infinity. All right, so we get undefined. So there's a cheesy saying, 0 over k is okay. Have I taught you this? N over O is no. So you cannot divide by 0. It is undefined when you divide by 0, okay? All All right, so the next one. So I have y minus k. So I have negative, or y minus z. So negative 4 minus a negative 7. So if I do minus a negative 7, so I'm going to do negative 4 plus 7, right? Squared. So I get what's inside the parentheses? 3 squared, which is
9.
9. All right, so the next one I have y squared minus z squared. So y squared is negative 4, and if I square it, minus z is negative 7, and I square it. Notice I put them in parentheses.
It's 16 minus 49.
16 minus 49. What do we get when we do 16 minus 49? Negative 33, exactly. Are those the same answer? No. Look at E and F. They're nowhere close to each other, right? One was positive 9, one was negative 33. So a lot of times people will think, like, if you have y minus z squared, they think you can bring the squared into both of them. You cannot do that, okay? You can't just say it's the same as y squared minus z squared. You could, remember when we were learning about powers, if we had y times z squared, then you could bring the square in. So how is this one different? What's in between the y and the z? A minus. Or the same idea if you had a plus, right? If you have a plus or a minus in between them, you cannot just bring a square in. Does that make sense? Okay. There's a teacher at Sycamore who worked there for a very, very long time, and she used to charge her students $1 every time they did that. And so she would take $1 from them. Yeah. And I always thought she kept those dollars, and then after she retired, she was like, no, at the end of the year, I gave them back. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I thought she kept them. Maybe she did. All right, so here we go. So number 3, so when x is equal to negative 5 and y is equal to 2 and z equals 4, find the value of x plus y over 3x plus 5z. So we have negative 5 plus y is 2 all over 3 times negative 5 plus 5 times 4. So we get negative 3 all over negative 15 plus 20. So I have negative 3 all over 5. And that's our answer. We just leave it like that. It's a fraction. Now, if it was not reduced, like if I got like 4/8 as my answer, I would reduce it, right? So make sure you reduce and simplify as much as possible. All right. Do we feel pretty good on plugging x's, y's, and so on in?
Can you do a game with it?
You guys like games, don't you? Maybe. Maybe I'll make a Kahoot for next time. All right, number 4. So write the algebraic expressions for the following situations. So find the area of the rectangle. So how did we find, what was the equation for the area of a rectangle? Yeah?
Length times width.
Length times width, right. So in this case, we have our length and we have our width. So my area is going to be x plus 7 times x.
55.
I don't know what it is. Oh, you finding it with 4? Oh, close. Not
No,
55.
48.
48. 11.
All right, so the question says, well, what is the area if x is equal to 4? So if x is equal to 4, then I have 4 plus 7 times 4, not 55. So I have 11 times 4?
44.
44, exactly. And we don't have any units, so really we'll write units squared. So we'll say, oh, we know that these are square units, whatever our units are.
Oops.
So what if our area, what if I had 5? Then I have 5 plus 7 times 5,
60.
which is 12 times 5. Yeah, so Cam says 60, exactly. All right, so you could find the area for different rectangles that are set up like that for different values of x, okay? All right, so how about this? So these are different algebraic expressions. So we want to use an x somehow, or in this case, a p. So the cost for a family of p people to attend a movie if the cost is $8.50 per person. Yeah, what do you think, Cam?
P times 8.
So it's going to be $8.50 times p. That's all you would do. You guys get this, right? Not bad. So if there were 2 people, you do $8.50 times 2. All right, you are driving 50 miles per hour on Highway 465. Write an expression that represents the distance traveled for t hours. So let's think about it. For 1 hour, how far do you travel?
50.
For 2 hours, how far do you travel?
100
miles. Yeah, I guess you're just going around the loop multiple times.
That gets boring.
Have you ever gone around the loop on
My dad
accident?
made me drive it.
Yeah, it's pretty long. All right, how about if I went 3 hours? 150, right? So what if I have t hours? What would I write?
50 times t.
Yeah, 50 times t, exactly. In math class, we always make t's with a little curly on the bottom so it doesn't turn into a plus sign. You work at a trendy shop in Zionsville. Every week, you earn $100 for selling at least $2,000 worth of clothing. Plus, you get $15 an hour. If you always sell that $2,000 worth of clothing, you're a good salesperson. And you worked H number of hours, what is your paycheck at the end of the week?
100 times H plus 15.
You're close. You got your times and your pluses.
Oh wait,
wrong.
I got this.
Yeah,
It's
column
100 plus 15h.
100, you make that. That's like your flat fee. You always get that $100. And then you made $15 per hour, so 15 times H. So if you worked only 2 hours and made a killing, and made that extra $100, you would do 15 times 2 gives you the $30 you made for the 2
But that's
hours.
a terrible return
plus
for
100.
getting $200 out of 2,000.
No, you're working for them.
Yeah.
I know, it's still
Well, you're not, yeah. I mean, clothing, they're not making $2,000 on the clothing, right? They've also bought the clothing
Right,
for a certain
I get it.
amount. You get it. All right, so last questions. So there was a little bit of issues with order operations and exponents on the test, so I wanted to go over a couple different things that came up in this lesson today. So if I have -3 squared, then that means that you have to do the exponent before you do the multiplication. Do you guys see that this -1 is multiplication? This is really the same as saying -1 times 3 squared. Okay, so we would do -1 times 9, which is -9. But what if I have -3 in parentheses and I square it? Okay, that's going to be -3 times -3, which is +9. So there's a difference between those. So parentheses matter. So what if I have -y squared? This is where it gets really confusing because there's lots of negatives. So let's think about it. We have a negative out front. My y is being replaced by -4. So I put my y in parentheses as -4. Do you guys see how I did that? Like this is the y value before. Okay, now what would the answer be? You have to do your exponents first, so we're going to take care of this part first, which gives you 16, and then we have that negative out front, so it's -16. So be careful with your negatives. All right, and then another one with order of operations, so it's kind of hard to see. I think this is what I have. Those are minuses. It looks like times, doesn't it? All right, so this is what I have. So a lot of you guys on your test, you did this first and said, oh, that's -1, and then times -1. All right, you have to do your parentheses first. So parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So we're going to handle the parentheses first. What do you get when you do that? -1, right? 4 minus 5. And then all over 4 times 5. And then you have to do the multiplication before you do the 2 minus part.
You do?
Yes. So you have to do multiplication before you do addition and subtraction. So you get 2 minus 3 times -1 is going to be +3. And then all over 4 times 5 is 20. So we get 5 over 20. I'm writing, it's not writing. So what is 5 over 20? Yeah, so you reduce it down. So you're going to have 5 over 20, which is 1/4. It doesn't like me right now. It stopped writing. I'm sure it's just going to write all of it all at once. All right, so you guys try the last one. So you have 5 minus -2 cubed minus a -3 squared. We would do that eventually. All right, so we have 5 minus a -8 Because negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is negative 8, right? And then we have minus, what about negative 3 squared? What do we put?
Negative 9.
Yeah, negative 9. So we have, because the minus is what we're saying. So negative 3 squared was 9, and then we had minus 9. So you should have 5 plus 8, right? Because the negative and negative make a plus. So 5 plus 8, which gives you 13. And then 13 minus 9?
4.
So your answer should be 4. All right, and that's it. So do we feel pretty good with order of operations and so on?